Welcome back to Streaming Media 2025 here at the lovely Fairmont Miramar in Santa Monica, California. I'm here today with Brian Ring, somebody I've known for a number of years, and Brian's company is Ring Digital, is that correct?
That is correct, ringdigital.tv.
So what does ringdigital.tv do these days?
Yeah, so a couple of things, primarily go-to-market and product marketing services, fractional, but helping companies drive revenue growth.
Okay.
And one of the things that I do that's special, I do a quarterly research report. It's proprietary research. I research things that I want to find out about.
Okay.
And so it's called FutureOfTV.Live. I got a little booklet here.
Okay, nice.
And one of the most interesting things that I've done with this, I try to dive into the TV user experience and what consumers want. And this last time, I put an open-ended response into the survey, right?
Okay.
So we asked Roku users, hey, what's your favorite show? And only because of the LLMs can we now decode basically open-ended responses.
Right.
And so I got an incredibly interesting result out of it.
Okay.
I got a word cloud that taught me several things. Number one, not everybody has a favorite show.
Right.
Some people do just dive in. They want to browse genres, for example. Of course, people do have favorite shows, but also people confuse platforms for things, right? And so this is a beautiful visual that teaches us to step back and think about the different clusters of people and how they sit down and watch TV. And so I'm very excited about my next one, because I got 5 of the 10 questions are these open-ended responses, and I'm confident that we're going to have a different view of TV viewership out of these. It's very interesting.
And it's intriguing when you say that about open-ended questions. We found in the research that we do with the state of streaming and like that, we have to ask multiple open-ended questions to figure out whether it's a bot that's answering it, whether it's a Chinese farm that's answering it,
Yeah.
and then go back and compare the IP addresses
Yeah.
and the timing difference on
Yeah.
them. So you're right, we all assume the data is accurate, and then you go back and
Yeah.
you're like, somebody's either not answering the question or writing in great is the response to everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I do use professional service firms on the collection side.
Sure,
So they have
sure,
all
sure.
kinds of methods to understand how long people were taking to answer the questions and such.
Yep.
But I will say this, the motivation today, so I'll talk a little bit about FAST, free ad-supported
Okay,
FAST
sure,
channels.
sure,
And
sure.
one of the things that I think everybody in our industry is puzzled by is that none of us really know people that watch Samsung TV Plus. We know they're very high numbers. We know these services are generating a lot of viewership, and so in this next research report, I was very specific. I asked people that specifically selected Pluto, for example.
Okay.
What is your favorite channel on Pluto? Right.
Pluto.
So again, something you
Okay.
can't do really easily without an LLM.
Right.
So we're going to see where that
Okay.
leads us, but I think it's going to generate additional insights. And for fast channel providers, they want to be able to distribute their content. And so the idea of opening up a new research path and new insights, I think, is really important for the industry. Everybody complains about not having data. And the truth is, with some effort, we can actually capture some really interesting data that can help drive business.
So one of the things that's intrigued me about FAST is, it sort of came out of nowhere a couple of years ago, and then it seemed we had a massive glut of FAST. Are we on the cusp of right-sizing that, or are we going to have a lot more niche FAST channels that are viewed by smaller and smaller groups of people?
It's a great question. I definitely think the lower end of the fast channel curve is not as healthy as the very top providers, right? If you have a massive catalog and you just put out 20 channels with all your great stuff on it, you're going to make some money. So I do think there's a lot of content out there, and there will be somewhat of a shakeout, but I don't think fast is going away.
Okay.
I think in general, these things, just throughout our media history, whether it's radio to TV or whatever, these things tend to be additive.
Okay.
But there are certainly a lot of people that would argue that particularly some of the broadcasters that aren't sort of all in on fast, that would argue that that this is an unhealthy behavior that we've seen again and again, where people rush to get some cash and then in a few years hence figure out that, wow, that other model was actually more profitable. So. But I think it's here to stay, and we got to figure out how to use it, and how to use it in conjunction with paid media, et cetera.
And what do we call, because we've now shifted from the golden era of you could pay for a subscription and have no ads to now you're paying for a subscription and you still have ads, what do we call that? Because it's not free ad supported, it's subscriber ad supported. Is there a SaaS term? Is there some other term for that?
I think that's a very great point. I think these terms do have a little bit of their life cycle on their own. And even fast, some people think AVOD is included. Other people think, no, we're just talking about the linear streams.
Right.
And you're 100% right. It probably will become a little bit of a dated term over time as we all realize that you've got, no ads, some ads, full ad stacks.
What the example for me is Freevee. So Freevee was completely independent. The idea was you watched it and there were ads in it. Then Amazon with Prime started putting ads in. Now they're rolling Freevee into Prime. Where's the differentiation there?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, another interesting thing that I've seen pop up and also will be in my new report. So Roku actually launched a service called Howdy, which is $2.99 a month, no ads. So zigging where everyone's zagging.
Right,
and I think it's to your point that the term fast might be dated, but I think if you ask folks in the fast business, they will sort of speak to the fact that, no, it's part of our business model.
Sure.
And it's a holistic, it's not the only exactly right. And some people also will talk about apps that they have where they're running linear channels inside those apps, but you can't access them without paying.
Right.
You're right. We've got a million different models. It's very fragmented.
To the very point you said about Pluto, I can go on there and I can watch a channel, and I've had to explain to my younger kids, this is the way it used to be. You had to show up at 8 o'clock at night to watch this particular show.
Right.
They sort of get it with AGT and The Voice.
Correct.
But before that, they were so used to, I can just watch it whenever I want to. And so you're right, we're sort of also swinging back on that where there are these rebroadcast linear channels or live linears that come into play.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us forward to 2 years from now.
Yeah.
You've done more of this research. Where do you think we're going to land in the industry at that point?
I mean, I guess I do think there'll be kind of a top tier of maybe 30, 40 channels that are really everywhere. I think on a lot of platforms you'll have hundreds of channels, but I do see a little bit of a shakeout. I would say that would seem logical to me, and I think
And do you see an aggregation model, kind of like cable did for all those disparate channels to bring them together into a bundle, or do you think we're still going to stay separate in these silos?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it's a little bit up in the air there's a lot of financial activity now, as you know, Paramount and CBS, if they start to consolidate. I think the general consensus in the industry is that the big tech platforms are really, they're at scale. And if you're anything smaller, you're not at scale. And therefore I could see a lot of consolidation. But at the same time, if you look at the internet, for example, everybody has a website. It certainly does make sense if you're publishing content to have something of your own app, something where you can have your own data, and then also feed experiences to users that could be any one of these. It could be the lean back, or it could be that sort of lean forward multi-view. For as long as I've been in the business, I've been a believer that we need a better bundle. And so maybe we're headed towards that, where some of these players are coming together. But right now, have to admit, there's a few too many choices. I think that'll narrow down a little
And
bit.
one of the fascinating things I've noticed, just to use a sports example, is so NFL sort of split across all these different platforms. But what's most fascinating to me, if I watch FNIA, on NBC to see a game there, they're also throwing up a little AWS sponsorship. They're also throwing up a little YouTube TV sponsorship. And I wonder if that's the NFL, and I don't know the answer, but if the NFL is saying basically remind people that you can't watch all the games in one place, but you can watch them across all these different places. And whether that's actually part of a model that we'll see where as we go for bidding rights that split out a lot of this content across multiple places, that maybe it's not an aggregated bundle, maybe it's a part of your must carry is you have to remind people that they can watch Thursday Night Football on AWS or something.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I think it's going to be really tough. I don't know exactly how. The crystal ball is pretty hazy on how it all shakes out.
And that's why you do research, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, some of those bigger macro factors are going to be tough to beat. I mean, the main thing that I think is interesting with the research is for channels that want to find out about their audience. Who do we program to? How can we lift up our audience views? Is to just know that there are ways to get data that can complement whatever it is you're getting from the platform.
Yeah.
And I also think we're going to see in the next year more usage of LLMs to actually do the analysis. So
Sure.
a lot of these channels do get data.
Right.
But it's a matter of cleaning it and making it apples to
I had
apples.
two conversations yesterday about how do we massage the data to get it into a standardized form, and how do we, somebody brought up a really interesting point. We've had so many dashboards that were sort of dashboard overload. What you really need the machine learning system to do is take all that data and then build a custom dashboard on the fly that gives you what you actually want to see, so that you're not having to compare 5 dashboards to each other to make a real-time decision.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one cautionary word though on all of that is that the media business has always been winner take all. You just mentioned the NFL, like I think made a comment earlier, like I don't think people really grok how important that one game is to the entire ecosystem, right? And so you do have that kind of natural hits-driven dynamic that's going to happen in the business, and so it's one of those things. The lesser tier content providers are going to have to work harder, to get big brands associated with it. You're going to have to work a little harder, provide a little more evidence, maybe take some risks on, place some bets on the come with some brands, right? I've always thought that instead of the Be Right Back slates, there are probably brands that would just take the inventory for the year in a sponsorship value-added perspective, for example, as opposed to the programmatic, which is great. Programmatic's great, but like if the fill rates are too low, there must be better things we can do with that inventory.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think as the industry matures, some of that will get clarified. But I also do, for better or worse, the big players are going to have more profits at the end of the day, and we'll see how many of those there are. That's another kind of interesting question, whether even smaller TV players like Vizio, which we all admire, has done such a good job, but like in the grand scheme of things, they're a small player in the TV business.
Well,
so
and also,
tough.
as you say, Samsung TV, how many people actually watch it? We see the numbers, but do we know somebody who watches it?
That's exactly right, and I'm really looking forward to this next report to see exactly who these people are. And the other thing is there's a lot of confusion in this business from the consumer perspective. So another thing I found on this is, just an example, FS1, Fox Sports 1, they do not have a fast channel.
Correct.
And yet, they have Fox Sports, or there's some brand of Fox Sports has a fast channel, and they syndicate FS1, and then so people think they're watching FS1.
Well, and that's precisely one closing thought I wanted to mention is, so there was a book years ago called Interface Culture by Stephen Johnson. He was a Brown professor, and he posited that as medias get replaced by other medias, that the legacy media starts to reflect and mimic the newer media. And he gave examples of radio plays with sponsors and how that moved into television with sponsors in the beginning. One of the models that he talked about was when we went to the internet, we suddenly had things like, because if you think about the early days of, say, Yahoo with curated search, what you had is you'd come to a page, or Alta Vista, you'd come to a page and you'd see this list of entertainment things you could look at. Right. The mimicking on TV was Entertainment Tonight, PM Magazine, which was basically news about news, or news about entertainment in short form content. What's fascinating to me in the sports world, and it started with the Paris Olympics sort of full bore, and now what I've noticed is they'll show you half of a game on NBC, and they'll say, oh, if you want to see the rest of the game, go to Peacock. Right. It's that tease that gets you to go pay for their OTT platform when the over-the-air is essentially mimicking what the OTT is doing to a much bigger extent. Yeah,
I think so, but then also improving it, so you'll get more if you come into the app. And
also the ability to then show you niche sports as well. So beach volleyball has taken on an outsized, because of the fact that if they're only showing you half of the first 9 holes on a golf thing on Saturday,
Right.
they can switch over and show you beach
Right.
volleyball.
Yeah.
If you're the diehard golf fan,
Right.
you're going to pay to go do the other thing.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to watch this niche sport that suddenly appears on TV.
I mean, that's all true, and I do think two things. Number one is Peacock proved with that AFC game, not last year, but the year before, that when you have that urgent moment, that's when you need to monetize.
Yeah.
The key is to do it quickly and efficiently and get them watching.
Right.
They'll still be pretty PO'd, but
yeah,
if
they will.
if they get into the content and start watching it, then it fades away pretty quickly, right?
And it also begs the question of whether TVOD will come, or not TVOD, not the on-demand part, but just straight up transactional live.
Right.
So, okay, you point your phone at this QR code on the screen, it's going to charge you $1.50, and it's immediately going to throw to your phone the ability to watch the rest of that, versus having to go through the subscription process.
Right.
I wonder if we'll come to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, to the other point I was going to make is that I think some of that is not intentional. It's because they're having game times that overrun.
Sure.
They have too many games on the schedule.
100%.
And so I think it's probably from their perspective a little more of a challenge than anything else.
Right.
But you're right. You know, at some point you're like, hey, I'm tired of all this. Like, go to the app. I mean, ESPN, Fox One, these apps now are going to have to build new things and new services, multi-views, interactivity, et cetera, to make sure that people, you know, who are tired of looking around know, like, hey, this is my home. Makes it easy. So I'm optimistic for those app providers to provide additional viewing value.
All right, Brian, as always, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back with our next interview.
Thank you.